I hate pickle forks.
Good. It'll be fine, right? Hey guys, welcome to another little show with BarryTsGarage. Today we're going to do a little something different. We're going to walk around Ed's shop with Ed, and he's going to show us some tools and some little tricks and just do something a little different, change of pace. So thanks for coming along. Here we go.
This is the 3/8 bolt.
Yeah, okay.
And I just sawed the threads off of it. We're going to make a tool or a fixture. I'm going to weld on this just a little bit.
All right.
Just a little bit.
Okay.
So we're going to make a little tool, and while today is a little bit of...
Yeah, a little miscellaneous show and tell. This is behind the scenes, Ed trying to get something done. I'm trying not to slow him down, just follow him around. Find out what
dirty jacket, with dirty coat on, because it's a little cold today.
It's a little bit chilly.
You want to look at that?
Yeah, I can see it.
I welded on that just a little bit.
Yep.
Now this is a 3/8 bolt, 9/16, and we're going to plug early Ford Flathead oil galley when you take out the fuel pump push rod.
Yes, okay.
They always take them out. If I take that push rod out, well, I lose oil pressure.
Yes, you would.
But this is your little tool, instead of putting a plug in it,
Okay.
and all kinds of things on the block. I want to walk over here and put that in.
Good. It'll be fine, right?
This oil plug here goes in and interferes with that right through that shaft where your fuel pump.
Right.
So I made this tool. It's just a bolt with a little weld on it, and we're going to put the weld on the back side down here, and you can machine this weld just as much as you want. And we're going to drop this in there, and this is going to be on the side of the oil galley. So this curved side is going to seal it up perfectly. And you're just going to drop it in there and maybe take a little bit of weld just so it drives in snug.
Okay.
So if you ever want it out, just take a 9/16 wrench and put on it and turn it a little bit and it'll come right out.
Huh.
If you drive a plug in it, there's no way to get the plug out.
You're right.
I should drill a hole in it and put a screw in it and
you
pull it out.
got a big job all of a sudden.
But this is really easy to drive that in there. So that's the thing that I've always done. Again, and one of the things here we always do too is we put plugs in the heat riser.
Right.
So this heat don't heat the carburetor anymore.
Yeah.
We showed that on there, but this little
we've
tool right here, it's so easy to make.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to get it back out of there again if you want to.
Yeah.
I think they are, yeah.
That would make sense.
We're just saving them for the guy in El Paso that comes and regrinds cams. And we'll give them to him.
You give them to the cam grinder.
Yeah. On the late model flatheads, 49 and 53, the oil galley bypasses that shaft.
Ah.
It goes straight over to the cam, an oil galley, and don't come anywhere near this. So this is only for the early model.
Does that be the first series, like the 32 to 38?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
That's what you need when you need this, yeah.
I got you. Okay.
Oh, that's just for a...
That's a remote control screwdriver. I noticed you using that to get into a carburetor adjustment.
You know, any carburetor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Sometimes there's hoses and water and it's hard to get your fingers down into a carburetor. And that's an easy way to adjust it.
That's crazy. How long do you think you've had that tool?
I've had it for quite a while. You talk about tools then.
Yeah.
The other day, one of the guys wrote in about a Chrysler wrench to tighten up the torque converter on a Chrysler. He's talking about this wrench.
Oh. Wow.
And that's how long it for to tighten the torque converter, because it's a skinny wrench here.
Yeah, so it fits in between there.
Yeah, it slips up between the flywheel because the torque converter had bolts sticking through it and you had to put nuts on them. way up behind the flywheel.
Okay.
Between the flywheel and the oil pan.
Yeah.
So this wrench here would go in there, it's long enough to tighten it, open it on one end. And with this wrench here, I've had this since probably 19.
That's a heck of a taper on the end of that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
It has to go in there, but past the wrench and the nut.
Yeah.
He's got to go put a nut on there.
Right.
Way up in that, by
Right.
the oil pan. He asked me if I had one the other day, if I ever heard of it. I said, yes, I do have one. He wanted to know if I could borrow his.
It's very
No,
nice
I don't
of
need
him.
one. I can borrow my, use my own.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah. This is the tool to adjustment here. This is to hold for a Chevy Vega,
Okay.
a 4-cylinder Vega.
Uh-huh.
And if you was going to take the cam out of the Vega and not take the head off, and you could put this, bolt this on a Chevy Vega, on the bolts, screw these down. This will hold the valves down.
So it compresses the valve.
Compresses all the valves at the same time, all of them.
Uh-huh.
Then with this taper here, the valves all down, this angle,
Yeah.
you can slide the camshaft right out and put a new camshaft in it, a bigger racing cam or something.
Yeah.
You take this whole fixture off.
So
I don't
just
think too many people have this fixture.
no, probably not
For
too
Chevy
many.
Vega.
No.
Of course, Chevy Vega had within the cylinder walls or a tin can, like a soup can, sticking in the motor, but nothing around the top.
So it was like a liner that you would put in a cylinder, right?
Yes, like a liner, like a sleeve,
Yeah.
but 4 sleeves set in the motor and water all the way around them.
Oh, really? They weren't supported by.
No, they were supporting the bottom of the sleeve in the block. So when you got these sleeves and this piston started getting hot and galling, well, it would pull that piston. It was hot, so it wasn't. Then it blew the head gaskets. So then the first thing you take it off, the center two would be down the hole, maybe 100 thousandths. Now the head goes on top. It's supposed to seal it, and the center two are down the hole, and the two. So now you got
Would the rings catch the edge of it?
no.
No, they wouldn't.
No.
Okay.
So then to fix that, we bored it out and put a sleeve in it with an edge on it. But the first thing you do is machine the block straight.
Uh-huh. Because I'll bet it got warped.
Yeah, well, we straightened the block.
Yeah.
Then we put the sleeves in it and left them stick up, maybe 20 thousandths,
Uh-huh.
all of them. And they were cast iron sleeves, and we put aluminum pistons in it then.
Was the block aluminum? I'm trying to remember.
No, aluminum block, yeah.
Okay.
So then we turn around and machine just the tops of sleeves off, so they may be stuck up 10 or 15 thousandths, all above the deck that we already straightened it. So now you put the new head on it, and it sealed them down on there and pushed them all down, compressed them, that 15 thousandths from the outside. And that's how you fix the Vega. And once you fix the Vega, it lasted for a long time.
Yeah, they were probably pretty good cars.
Pretty good car.
Once you got
That's
that.
the main thing, you fixed it, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So was
I think I have some sleeves over here,
Yeah.
someplace for Vega. Here's a weird thing.
Okay.
This is a centric. It goes around and around and around. This is a Chrysler tool
Okay.
that has this jaw that swings out,
Yeah.
goes back, and a hole here with a tightener. It's dirty because it's been.
Yeah.
But anyways, with this oblong thing here, the
Well,
centric.
it acts like a cam.
Yes.
Okay.
So what you did, if you want to take a tie rod off, the steering on a Dodge, that's what it's all adjustable, or any other car, instead of taking a pickle fork and drive in there and ruin the seal, the bushing and everything else. I hate pickle forks.
Yeah.
Drive them in there, hit them or something.
It's pretty primitive.
You could flip this over the tie rod
Okay.
through the round,
Yeah.
put it back over again, put this in the ball joint, snug it up and give it a half a turn, and it popped it right off.
Oh, I see now how it works. Okay. That's wild.
Yeah, instead of using a pickle fork in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So that's
So-
the Chrysler tool that came out with.
Yeah. How
And
many
it
years?
worked perfect.
I guess that covered quite a few years of Chryslers. I
Yes, it
imagine.
would. Anything in small the Lancer, the Dodge Dart, and the bigger car too.
Yeah.
And it swung right over the tie
really
rod,
cool.
flip it on here, give it a turn, and give it a half turn, it came right off.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're hammering in a pickle fork.
Yeah, hammer to pick up or pound it on it. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. IMCA race axles.
Oh, okay.
This happens to be one of our dirt track car. It's kind of unusual. And it's a 31 spline Ford 9-inch. And this core spline here,
Yeah.
we'll talk about this a little bit. This is a spline for the hub that goes on here. Let me get one of those here in just 2 seconds. This is not working, but this would be a hub for like a race car.
Okay, yeah.
And it goes on here. Then all it does is hold the bearing on here and hold the disc brake caliper
Oh, okay.
and the lug nuts on it and stuff like this. So it's on this end here.
And the other
So,
end just
and
jams
we'll
right
just-
into the 9
We'll just talk about this a little bit. We
Yeah.
don't have anything. So, okay, then, NASCAR. We didn't have to do this with the dirt.
Okay.
But NASCAR then would grind this to a round circle,
Okay.
curve it. Then that's paved track to a curve. Then they turn around and heated the housing, the ran housing, and I know one of my friends said he heated a lot of them. He used to work back in North Carolina, and bent the housing, the whole housing.
Okay.
Now he slipped this yoke on here, this thing, and it was a little bit of an angle.
Ah.
Yeah, and because this is curved, and the other thing, it worked just fine, like a ball joint
Right.
or a universal joint. If it was
Sometimes,
straight, it would break something.
right. Sometimes
had
you
to
can even
curve
see
it.
those Allen wrenches that have a ball on the end. So you
Yeah,
go at
small
an angle.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
So this could run a few degrees at this angle and put the right rear tire at a little angle and go around the corner better. But then NASCAR soon made a ruling on that. It could only be so much.
Okay, because that's called camber.
Camber.
Camber, yeah.
Yeah, tipped in.
Yep.
So then after they caught him doing it, it wasn't cheating.
It just wasn't in the
It's
rules.
fair play. But now as soon as they caught him or found out what they were doing,
Yeah.
well then they made it a certain degree. So they check them all the time now.
Yeah.
The front wheel can be angled whatever, but the rear wheel, that's against, they can only have just a few degrees.
Right.
It's kind of funny. I have to show you
That
this.
is very
And
funny.
this axle here is hollow.
Oh, sure enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I've had some of our dragster axles that would be like this, and we would paint them, paint a line down them,
Yeah.
and they're brand new. After a while, you take them out, a dragster, and that stripe would go around the axle. That's how much just twisted the angle.
That's wild.
I took one apart one time, and these threads right here, this axle was ready to break. That's this in here. But we counted the threads, and I think they were about almost 3 slots over. They twisted this end, because this goes in the gears.
Right.
You know, the gears. This twisted this end of it, almost 3 splines, and didn't break.
Wow.
That's how much just twisted.
That's hard to imagine.
Yeah. It's actually extreme, yeah. So we just happen to have this axle here,
Yeah.
and while we're here, we can talk about a little bit, and it's interesting to know what NASCAR did this.
Yeah. Hold on. It's a Muncie.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a late model, 69 original transmission, because the first ones had a little bolt sticking out, 5/16 nut on the shifter.
Okay.
Yeah. The 5/16.
Okay.
And every time you tighten it, it broke it off. But the first ones had first transmission had a 5/16 thread on here.
Oh.
And every time you tighten them, they broke them off.
Okay.
So then the late model, they said, okay, we'll make that better. We'll put a 3/8 thread on here. So that's a lot stronger. So that next series had 3/8 threads on them.
Okay, is that the biggest difference, you think?
Yes. And that's at M20, had the 5/16 early. M20 also had the 3/8. M20 had the shaft in the bottom of the transmission. The big counter shaft was about the size of a nickel.
Huh, okay.
Then the M21 transmission had the 3/8 screw in like that one.
Oh, instead of a stud
the
sticking
bowl.
out, okay.
Yeah, instead of sticking out.
Huh.
And the M21 had the speedometer coming out of the passenger side of the transmission.
Okay.
M20 came out the driver's side right through the linkage. So now you had a speedometer cable in there when you're trying to adjust all the linkage.
That's a pain.
Yes. So 21, they moved the thing on the right side.
Okay.
Then we see that the original cases maybe and 21s did not have a drain plug. You can't drain it.
Got to take it out?
Yeah.
Or suck it out or something?
Yeah, suck it out.
Yeah.
And if you bought an aftermarket case from the factory and replaced the original, it had a drain plug.
Yeah.
You don't drain the transmission.
Yeah.
You just dump it out.
Yeah.
So that's some of the differences real quick on one or the other one. Then they talk about rock crusher.
Yeah, what is a rock crusher? What are
Okay, the rock crusher is that you could buy a heavy-duty transmission gears. The gears for rock crusher were kind of straight cut, so they were stronger, but they made more noise.
Yes.
Anytime you get straight cut gears, straight, they're long. So then the M20, 21s had angle cut, maybe 30 degrees between the input shaft and the cluster gear. So anytime you get an angle gear, they force one another apart.
Yes.
And that's harder on the transmission, the thrust washers, but it was quieter. So then that transmission out of Camaro there has got 2 grooves around the input shaft. That means it's 254 ratio, or if you multiply it, 256 in first gear.
Can we see that on there?
Yes.
Can we see it? Okay.
Yes. And if we had 1 groove, it's 220. So 220 gear ratio is closer to high gear, 1-to-1. So a 220 gear would be good for a 410 gear in the rear end, or 456, or else just drive. It's hard to take off a stop sign with a 220 gear. Transmission low ratio, because it'll go almost maybe a block in first gear. But only changes 900 RPMs between first gear, second gear, between second and third, fourth, because fourth gear is always 1-to-1.
So they call that a close ratio.
That's right, close ratio.
Yep.
It only changes 800, 900 RPMs at each one, depends on whatever.
When would it be an advantage to have a close ratio?
You're going to race it with a 456 rear end, and you shift it real fast, or the 302 Chevy Z28 motor with a high RPM motor. So you'd want maybe a 220 low.
So you're putting it in the rev band and keeping it where the revs are?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And driving on the street, you want 256, so you can take off in first gear easily. And then RPM's difference is maybe about 1,100 between each shift.
Right.
Yeah, because you end up with, in fourth gear, 1-to-1.
Yeah.
And so it's really easy to tell which is which.
Okay.
So you could put the rock crusher transmission gears in an early M21, and then different ones. So then the M22 came out with all the good stuff.
Okay.
But you could get the rock crusher gears 220 low, 256, and an M22.
Okay.
M22 had a bigger shaft, same size as a turbo 400.
Sounds like it could even handle a big block.
Yes. So here's one here that's got 1 groove in it,
Yep, I see it.
and that would be a 220 low. That one over there is 2 grooves in it, and that's a 256 low. And then the turbo The bigger one, the 250, it's got a bigger bearing on here, the same size as a turbo 400. Here, I'll show you.
Okay.
This happens to be a turbo 400 yoke. So this would, if this was an M22, this yoke would have went on there.
Okay, yeah, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
So it can handle more power.
Yes, and the M22 only has 3 bolts here.
Oh.
And a bigger bearing and a bigger seal to handle this yoke.
I see, okay.
And usually the M22 had a fine spline.
Oh, okay.
In the front. So there is quite a bit of difference.
Yeah.
And you can see those by just walking up to one.
Yeah, when you know what you're looking for.
3
you
holes,
see it, huh?
bigger yoke with a late model shifter forks, fine spline. It's an M22.
Yeah.
And the M22 transmission in the back is longer, about 1 inch longer.
Huh.
So the whole transmission is 1 inch longer.
What in the world is this out of?
That's an overdrive, Doug Nash overdrive, for a back of a turbo 400 transmission.
Really?
So if you had a turbo 400 automatic transmission
Yeah.
in your 4-wheel drive,
So like a Chevy.
not necessarily, this is not 4-wheel drive, but if you had it in your Suburban or something,
A Chevy K-Series pickup?
yes,
Okay.
K-Series truck with a
Yeah.
turbo 400,
Uh-huh.
you could put this behind it and have an overdrive then.
Interesting.
So that would about 30% overdrive, which is a lot.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, those are cases.
Yeah, so if this was see there's the original case, there's no fill plug
Aha. Or drain plug.
or drain plug. This is a fill plug,
Right.
drain plug. If it had a drain plug here, that would have been a case that you would have bought from Chevrolet. This is a small, see it's about the size of a nickel. So this is an M20 case. The other one's about the size of a quarter, 1 inch we call it.
Okay.
A 1 inch lower shaft is an M22. This is an M22 case.
Okay,
It's
you
broken.
do have one.
See how big it is? It's
Much bigger, yes.
1 inch, and you can see that a mile away.
Yep.